What's good, ladies and gents? Welcome to the MKO Pugilism Boxing channel, where we talk all things boxing. Remember to like, subscribe, hit the bell notification, put it on all, of course, and you get notified immediately as soon as we drop any new content on the channel. So without further ado, let's get into it. So over the weekend, there was a lot of good boxing action. I'm going to start with the DAZN card, which took place in America. Headline act was Virgil Ortiz versus Maurice Mighty Mo Hooker, and this was one of those fights where it was definitely an all-action fight. It was a close in the phone booth sort of fight where both guys sort of gave it their all. Both guys were sort of fighting at pretty much close range, toe-to-toe, throughout the whole thing. So it was a good fight overall. I enjoyed it. Definitely would say that it's one that's worth watching, and yeah, lots of leather being thrown there. In terms of how it went, pretty much from the first bell, Ortiz, Virgil Ortiz, as is his habit, is a front foot fighter, likes to sort of keep a high guard, come in throwing lots of shots, punches and bunches. He was trying to put a lot of sting and a lot of power into every shot he threw. Even you could see when he missed, you could see it was quite wide, and that's because he puts all his power, he puts a lot of strength and a lot of effort into every punch that he throws. So we could see that from him. So his plan from the get-go was, get to Maurice Hooker, work him, grind him down, break him down, and beat him that way. And that was pretty much what he done throughout this fight. He was close range, letting his hands go, nice little uppercuts, hooks. He went to the body pretty well, and he even jabbed quite well as well. But yeah, overall, he was just sort of putting the pressure on Maurice Hooker from the word go. And his plan really did prevail in this fight, because Hooker, although he's got the dimensions to be a good boxer, he's got the height and he's got the long limbs, like the long arms, where you would look at him, outside, and you'd look at the type and shape and everything, height, and you look at the reach and you'd think, right, this guy can box on, you'd put him, say to him, on the outside, use your jab, move, use the ring. But what he elected to do, and he elects to do sometimes, is he likes to throw kind of short shots, and he likes to give up his height. And in this fight, I think really that's what cost him very dearly, was the fact that from the first round, he elected to sort of stay in close range with Virgil Ortiz and give Ortiz his type of fight. And it's a funny one, because they would have known going into this fight that Virgil Ortiz, he's a come forward guy, he's an aggressive guy, and those sort of guys that are very aggressive and like to come forward, they love it when guys are straight in front of them. They like when you stand there in front of them, and you, because it gives them their opportunity to land. And that was the big problem with Maurice Hooker here. They have this saying that, you never hook with a hooker. You never sort of punch, and you never trade with a guy whose technique is all about aggression and is all about coming forward, is all about fighting at close range. You have to try and make it difficult for your man. But for some reason, Maurice Hooker's plan seemed to be just to stand and trade, and it was there was a lot of mistakes in the way he approached this fight, because even I was noticing that he holds his chin quite high up in the air. So it was very easy for Virgil Ortiz to land his punches, because not only was Hooker in the pocket in close range, his chin was up in the air. So it was he was a very easy target, and because he is quite tall and he stands upright, it was a very easy target for Virgil Ortiz to tag, and that was what was happening all night, all through the rounds. He was a very sort of easy target to hit, because he decided to stay there. And I think that's ultimately what cost him, because I got to see throughout this fight that yes, he was proving that he's a tough guy, because obviously he was there, he was in the pocket, and he might take a shot or two and then he'll give back his shots. But you could always see that there was a difference in punching power when the two men exchanged. You could see that when Ortiz landed, it was thudding, it was powerful. Ortiz really did shake him up a bit. But then when Hooker would respond, it was more reactionary. His shots were more reactionary, and they didn't have the same pop, and they didn't have the same power that Virgil Ortiz's punches had. And so in the exchanges, Maurice Hooker was always coming off second best. And that was from the word go, from round one. So it kind of boggles the mind why he sort of stayed there and stuck with a technique that wasn't working. I mean, I'm sure, yeah, as a man, and he's macho and he's got that machismo, and he probably thought, well, I've taken a few shots here, I'm still here, I haven't been put down, whatever. And it just continued like that, back and forth, both men landing punches on each other. And in the end, it ended up with a stoppage by Virgil Ortiz. I think it was the sixth, if I'm not mistaken. And it was a funny one, because I believe his Maurice Hooker, as they're exchanging, his shoulder went, and he sort of took a punch. You could see the shoulder go a little bit. He fell to the ground, and then he just didn't beat the count. He just stayed down and kind of gave up the fight from there. Yeah, many people say it was a sort of acquittal on his part. He sort of quit, and yeah, he did. He definitely wasn't going to get back up. In a sense, I can't blame him, because if you got a bad injury, you're losing a fight. I see the logic in it, but from a boxer's perspective, the sort of warrior's code that there's no mercy. As long as you're still breathing, you're still on your feet, you're still conscious, you fight on. So there's going to be two different lines of thought on that. It was a good, entertaining scrap overall, but I think it was a case of one guy, he's a come forward guy in Virgil Ortiz, and he imposed his game plan, and his game plan worked out perfectly, because Maurice Hooker couldn't do what he needed to do, which would have been, I think of other fights, Chocolatito fight, where Chocolatito was able to sort of assess what was happening in front of him. As Estrada attacked, he was able to just step back slightly and then catch the punches on the gloves. And with Hooker, he would need to do things radically different, a lot different than what he did if he was going to win this fight. Because I think even if he was able to continue, even if he did get up and whatever, I think he was always going to lose this fight on points, because there were certain things he needed to do. He needed to, at the very least, because he was dealing with a guy who hits harder than him, he needed to, at the very least, maybe do a bit of lateral movement, upper body movement, keeping his sort of head off the center line. Maybe he could have even employed a bit of holding, a bit of clenching when Ortiz getting close. Land your shots when your man gets close, clinch him, and then he's got to reset again. Things like that, or even movement. He could have used the ring a bit and moved about. Maybe that would have, I think that would have at least made the fight more winnable for Hooker. But it was just one of them where he couldn't do what he needed to do. He decided to try and beat Virgil Ortiz at his own game, and there was only ever going to be one winner, because that's Ortiz's game. He fights up close and personal, so he was always going to win it, because he's one of those guys that I think unless Hooker could actually hit harder than Ortiz, or hit as hard, win his respect that way, there was no point of him staying in the pocket, because you're staying in the pocket and you can't hurt the guy, so you're always going to come at second best. And I think now going forward with Ortiz, there's talk about Crawford was ringside, Spence was ringside, and I think he's a bit of a level below those guys. However, he is quite young. and he's quite fresh. He's new in the game. That was pretty much his big step up fight. So I wouldn't mind seeing him thrown in there against the big boys, but I also wouldn't mind if he wants to take a few more fights like that, of that sort of level of a hooker, and then jump into with the big boys from then onwards. So yeah, I think he's got a good future in the sport. He's got things to work on, rough around the edges, but overall, very good victory for Virgil Ortiz. Congratulations to him. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And until next time, this is MKO Pugilism, over and out. Catch you on the next one.